During the 1930s, Frankie Mann was perhaps one of the top jockeys in Canada. In fact, I don't think there's been
Journalist, author, historian, official scorer for the Blue Jays, and managing director of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame, Lou Cause is a man of many talents. Lou started reporting on sports in Hamilton in the 1940s. He moved to Toronto in 1957 as a reporter and columnist for the Globe and Mail, where he handicapped harness racing. Lou has 3 major publications under his belt. Baseball's Back in Town, The Plate, A Royal Tradition, a history and compendium of the King's Queen's Plate from 1860 to 1984, and The Plate, 150 Years of Royal Tradition, from Don Juan to Eye of the Leopard, updating the initial book and detailing the plate from 1985 through 2008. Lou helped found Canada's own Horse Racing Hall of Fame, along with a group of Canadian racing officials, publicists, and media who gathered for the 1973 National Racetracks of Canada Convention in Edmonton. While Lou would become the chair of the Thoroughbred Nominating and Election Committees and eventually managing director, it was clear to him through his work in the thoroughbred and standardbred breeding businesses that the Canadian Hall would have to fairly represent both breeds across the country. Working with Woodbine, a location was found at the west entrance to Woodbine. Under Lou's direction, the hall came to life. Visitors from across the world have been unanimous in their praise of the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame. Lou is a terrific communicator, and his contact lists are extensive. He was always working the phones for the hall. Before the internet became a source of information, Lou was the hall's version of the World Wide Web. Highlights of Lou's career include developing The Legends, a millennium project to honor heroes of the past. But more than anything, what stands out is Lou's unique vision, dedication, and tireless efforts in helping establish and promote the Canadian Horse Racing Hall of Fame.
Now you know. I'm Louis Cause.
Owned by Robert J. Costigan and conditioned by Hall of Fame trainer Mac Benson, Ottervale was carefully guided through a 15-race career, winning at distances from 6.5 furlongs to 1.25 miles. The daughter of Arch and the French mare Kaloska made an impact at age 2, capturing the prestigious Grade 3 Natalma Stakes.
On the outside, Ottervale. Ottervale has come on to take the lead. It's Ottervale to win the Natalma, a resurgent.
In 2006, the 3-year-old thrived on the turf in both California and her home base at Woodbine, where she won the Aliwal Stakes before shipping to the West Coast and Hollywood Racetrack, finishing 3rd in the Grade 1 American Oaks. Aravale bounced back at Del Mar, winning the Grade 1 Del Mar Oaks under her primary jockey, Jose Valdivia Jr.
Aravale bursts away. Aravale will win it. Take the ribbon late, but Aravale wins. Take the ribbon.
She returned to Woodbine and just failed to get up in time in the Grade 2 Canadian Stakes, losing by a half length. But the best was still to come in the $1 million E.P. Taylor Stakes with a dramatic victory against some of Europe's leading grass specialists.
A furious kick on the inside for Jose Valdivia. Ottervale has taken the lead. Ottervale, a championship performance.
This triumph, the final of her career, earned her Horse of the Year honors as well as a Sovereign Award as Champion Turf Female. She earned more than $1 million in just 5 starts that year. From the beginning, Astraeos seemed destined for greatness, thanks to a name plucked from Greek mythology that means man of the stars. Yet, Astraeos had more earthly beginnings. In late 1996, Charles Christoforou purchased an unraced mare named Lucky Tune, who was in foal to Art's Place. That unborn foal became the handsome Astraeos. Christoforou shared ownership with his nephew from Cyprus, Makis Chrysomilis, and Irving Storfer of Toronto. At age 2, Estrellas performed well, coming within a nose of winning the Freshman Breeders' Crown at Mohawk and earning close to $300,000 from 5 wins. The following year, he added another $765,000 to his name, despite having to contend with Horse of the Year Gallo Blue Chip every step of the way. Estrellas came second to him in the Meadowlands Pace, but got the better of the Great Gallo when he won the Little Brown Jug in 3 heats.
Watch out now. Estrellas with the lead. He's in command here. Gallo Blue Chip nowhere to go. Estrellas with the lead. On the outside, George Scooter. Gallo Blue Chip. Estrellas wins the Little Brown Jug. Christopher, wire to wire.
His success would continue as a stud at Tara Hills in Port Perry, Ontario. His first crop hit the racetrack in 2004, with his 2-year-olds dominating the OSS circuit. In an OSS Gold final that year, the top 4 finishers were all by Estrellas: Isle of Patmos, Make My Day, Lincoln Park, and Astronomical. Zuka skipped that race but would ultimately become the richest of them all, as a 25-time winner with earnings of more than $1.3 million. Sadly, Estrellas' untimely passing in October 2006 at age 9 would limit his breeding career to 4 years.
All of them lining up here, and Bay sends Butterfly Bell through on the inside. Russell Bay's on Butterfly Bell, winning 2.5 lengths.
Each trip to the winner's circle for Russell Bays supplants his incredible record of most victories by a jockey in North America. His victory total during an illustrious career is approaching more than 11,000 from a family of horsemen. His father, Joe Bays, was a leading rider in Northern California and Washington, and was riding in Vancouver at the time of Russell's birth, giving him dual Canadian-American citizenship. Bays, who resides in California, launched his riding career in 1974 at Yakima Track in Walla Walla, Washington. His first winner was trained by his dad. By the early 1980s, he was making a name for himself, winning racing titles at Northern California tracks, and has perennially been the leading rider at both Bay Meadows and Golden Gate Fields, amassing over 60 riding titles.
And despite drifting out, she gives Bays 9,000 wins.
By far, one of his greatest career highlights took place December 1st, 2006, at Bay Meadows in San Mateo, when he eclipsed Lafitte Pinkeye's North American record for most wins when he registered his 9,531st victory. Among Bays' other honors are his induction into the U.S. Hall of Fame, the prestigious George Wolfe Memorial Jockey Award, the Isaac Murphy Award for the highest winning percentage 9 years in a row, and an Eclipse Special Award in 1995 when he became the first jockey to win 400 or more races 4 years in a row.
Jambalaya has struck front of the quarter pole.
In the spring of 2005, Jambalaya, the gangly gelding with huge feet, was ordained to be trainer Catherine Day Phillips' entry for the Queen's Plate. It didn't happen, as Jambalaya exhibited a dislike for the dirt. Instead, the son of Langford became one of Canada's great turf stars during his rags to riches career. It was a fairy tale story, said his trainer, who co-owned Jambo along with her husband Todd Phillips. After placing 7th in 2 dirt races in 2005, Dave Phillips decided his future was on the turf. He broke his maiden and won an allowance race before his first major score in the Breeders' Stakes, winning by 8 lengths.
Jambalaya by 6, Jambalaya by 7, final 16th of a mile. Jambalaya was invincible this afternoon.
Various injuries often plagued his progress, but his team at Kingfield Racing Stable persisted and were rewarded in 2007 with a stunning victory in the Gulfstream Park Breeders' Cup Turf Stakes, defeating Honey Rider and champion turf star Einstein.
Jambalaya Honey Rider, come to the wire, Jambalaya won it!
But the best was yet to come that year when Jambalaya scored in a gutsy effort on a wet Arlington course to nail defending Arlington champion, the Tin Man, in the final strides.
Jambalaya's let loose, the Tin Man, here comes Jambalaya as the winning line looms, Rob Yamamoto, and Jambalaya going for glory of the million.
It marked the first time a woman had trained the winner of this prestigious race, and Jambalaya was the first Canadian bred to win the Arlington Million. What Charles CHRHF built in horse racing as founder of Flamborough Downs has transformed into a tremendous legacy for the people of Hamilton. Since selling Flamborough Downs to Magna Entertainment in 2002, Charles and his wife Margaret have donated $53 million to Hamilton Health. CHRHF was initially skeptical that a racetrack could be a profitable enterprise, but former Windsor Raceway owner Bill Rowe convinced Charles Flamborough Downs would be successful. After that, Charles and his principal partners Ray Connell and John Grant moved quickly. Opening night at Flamborough was a smashing success, causing a traffic jam on the number 5 and number 6 highways. The grandstand was so full, the doors had to be closed. There was no room to move. Famous for his brash comments and even bolder attire, over the next 30 years, Charles became synonymous with the track and its signature event, the Confederation Cup. As an owner, he was connected to a number of outstanding horses, including 2 Hall of Famers, Matt Scooter and his beloved homebred mare, Alimony.
Here comes Alimony and she's flying! Alimony full of pace on the outside, and here she comes, exploding by this field!
Charles has worn Alimony's ring ever since her 1998 induction. Quote, "It's amazing how many people have asked me about it over the years. I always say, it's from the Horse Racing Hall of Fame. I don't tell them it was for Alimony. Now, I won't be bending the truth anymore." In early 2002, Peter Heffering made one of his legendary gambles on an Illinois-bred trotting colt named after a Pokemon character. Based on the merits of Cadabra's freshman record of 12 wins and 2 seconds in 14 starts, a mark of 156 and 2, and his outstanding conformation, Peter convinced a group consisting of Irving Storfer, Lee and Linda DeVisser, Irving Liverman, and David McDuffie to form the Abracadabra stable and join him in the deal. Cadabra's owners, Connie and Homer Hochstetler, were reluctant to part with their gifted homebred, but eventually agreed to accept Heffering's $800,000 offer, at the time, the highest price ever paid for an Illinois bred. Cadabra kicked off his sophomore career in June 2002 and quickly turned away any remaining doubters into fans, with wins in both the elimination and final of the Stanley Dancer at the Meadowlands, as well as the Review Stake and the American National. He concluded his season by winning both the eliminations and finals of the Canadian Trotting Classic, as well as wins in the Matron Stake and Breeders' Crown.
Oh, and he made it look oh so easy as Dave Miller edges Cadabra on past to win the Breeders' Crown. Cadabra, no magic needed.
Subsequently, the decision was made to stand the horse at Heffering's Terra Hills stud. To date, Cadabra has produced 660 foals, 380 of which have stepped behind the starting gate to earn over $30 million. Dave Wall's career was launched into high gear in 1972. Since then, the Kamoka, Ontario resident has evolved into one of harness racing's best-loved ambassadors. Although Dave Wall is being honored in the trainer-driver category, his contributions to the industry stretch beyond those boundaries. He has been instrumental in the careers of countless trainers and caretakers and contributed to the well-being of his fellow horsemen through the annual Wall Time Golf Tournament. Wall obtained his driver's license at 25 and struggled through his first few years until Piper Wall came along. 2 years later, the Ontario Sire Stakes was born and Wall became a fan favorite, earning the moniker Mr. OSS. Wall's willingness to travel from racetrack to racetrack for the provincial stakes events, his easygoing nature, and his ongoing success all contributing to the Mr. OSS title. In each decade since its inception, Wall has been associated with some of the program's top horses. Wall has also achieved recognition beyond provincial borders. He piloted his trainee staff director to victory in the 1985 North America Cup, and in 1991, he and Odds Against claimed the Canadian Pacing Derby title.
But Odds Against will get there. Odds Against in the Canadian Pacing Derby.
In 1999, Wall drove Good Times to glory in the Maple Leaf Trot, and Odie's Fame captured both the Van Hanover and Breeders' Crown finals.
Odie's Fame, this is the stuff of Breeders' Crown legends. Odie's Fame makes her fame grow again to global proportions.
He also traveled to Sweden for the Elite Lopp in 1999 with Good Times, and in 2003 with Northern Bailey.
But he will be hung up 5 wide as the field turns into the stretch. Mount Sassafras is coming away with the narrow lead. Cigar trying to get him.
Aubrey Minshall was born in Guyana and lived in Trinidad until joining the Merchant Marine and immigrating to Canada with virtually the clothes on his back. His rags to riches story followed a path of building up several successful manufacturing businesses. Always devoted to Canadian racing, Aubrey got involved in the sport during the late 1960s. He bred or campaigned many stakes-winning champions during the 1980s and 90s, Mount Sassafras, King Corey, Bold Ruritana, and Stephanotis, to name a few, and was honored in 1996 for his devotion to the thoroughbred industry when Minshall Farms won Sovereign Awards as leading owner and breeder in Canada, and Mount Sassafras was named Horse of the Year. Unfortunately, Aubrey's sudden death in November 1993 did not allow him to enjoy these accolades. He catapulted to the ranks of prominent owners when Rushton's Corsair won the Prince of Wales and the Manitoba Derby, was second in the Quebec Derby, and placed third in the Queen's Plate, Breeders' Stakes, and the Toronto Handicap.
It's a race now between Rushton's Corsair and Amber Haired with Native 8 on the outside and Police.
Minshall constantly upgraded his breeding stock, hoping one day to breed a Queen's Plate winner. He came closest with Stephanotis, second in 1996, and Mount Sassafras, third a year earlier. Barbara Minshall paid tribute to her late husband, saying, "Aubrey took the ups and downs of this business better than anyone I have ever known. He was very much a hands-on owner and an extremely knowledgeable horseman." In her first days as a mother, Mystic Mistress thoroughly wore out her welcome at Werrowee Farm and almost earned a one-way ticket away from Dr. Mike Wilson. She has more than made up for those first impressions in the 13 years following, becoming a celebrated and reliable broodmare. Mystic Mistress had raced well, earning $42,000 and showing sub-155 speed on the track. Owner Eddie Howard had unsuccessfully tried to breed her for a year and was looking for somewhere to send her. That somewhere became Werrowee Farm. A full sharing agreement was reached with Howard and his racing partner Alvin Stein's Brumar Ridge Stables, retaining ownership of the mare. Wilson had no such trouble getting Mystic Mistress in foal, and she delivered a Camluck colt in her first try at Werrowee. Almost immediately, Mystic Mistress became so miserable that no one could get into the stall with her and her foal. Wilson wasn't sure he wanted the mare around for an encore performance, so the following year he sent her to Ed Taylor to foal. Taylor reported none of the same behaviors. She returned to Werribee and hasn't left the farm since, rather serenely producing an amazing 13 foals in a row. Her progeny, 10 of which were sired by Hall of Fame stallion Cam Luck, have to date earned just shy of $4 million. This includes the now 4-year-old Mystician, who won the 2011 Upper Canada Cup and the $1 Million Metro in 2010 for earnings of more than $1.7 million with a mark of 149-2.
Lalazane now challenging on the outside.
Lalazane was destined to become an exceptional performer with Hall of Fame credentials from the moment Montreal industrialist and future Hall of Fame inductee Jean-Louis Levesque purchased the chestnut filly for $101,000 at the Saratoga August sales in 1976. The E.P. Taylor consigned filly inherited regal breeding from sire Dr. Fager and Northern Dancer mare Northern Willow. As a 2-year-old, she won her first 5 starts, defeating some of the best fillies in North America.
Gay Apparel and Lalazane now challenging on the outside. Lalazane comes on to take the lead. Lalazane now in front by a good margin with Gay Apparel, the Sorcière.
After winning the Shady Well at Woodbine, she headed for Saratoga, New York, winning the Schuylerville and the Adirondack. Her first loss came when she exhausted herself on the lead in the spin-away and finished 4th. Lalazane then shipped to Winnipeg, where she easily captured the Futurity. Next on her schedule was the Princess Elizabeth Stakes. She romped home by 7 lengths under jockey Ron Turcotte.
That's Lalazane on top now by 3 or 4 lengths with Gay Apparel second. Bob Est is third along the inside.
Despite a setback in the Natalma Stakes under high weight over a very soft turf, Lalazane regrouped when sent to Keeneland for the Alcibiades, Kentucky's championship race for juvenile fillies. As the heavy favorite, Lalazane persisted. 2-year-old fillies rarely win Horse of the Year honors, but Lalazane was recognized for her 2-year-old campaign that year, which included 8 triumphs and 6 stake wins, accomplishing a feat previously achieved only by La Prévoyante.